Fireworks went off on 4th of July for Notre Dame football recruiting with a commitment. Four-star cornerback Christian Gray from St. Louis to Smet High School. Tim, this is a player who we've been talking about for a long time. Notre Dame offered this young man last June, worked hard to land him. I originally wrote a commitment story just to, have it ready in case it happened last October, November, because I thought this young man was leaning towards the Irish back then, and took a little bit longer than expected, but Christian Gray finally committed to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and it's absolutely a big one. The number 78 overall player, number 7 cornerback per the On3 consensus ranking. Pick Notre Dame over finalists LSU, Ohio State, USC. Had an offer from Alabama as well, but the Crimson Tide did not end up as a major contender. So, Tim, as always, your initial reaction to this big commitment for the Irish?
This is huge. I think when we look back, this is going to be one of those top three type of commitments in this class because of the need, the position ranking. You and I have talked a lot about, over the last year, cornerback, top 100 playmaker, nationally ranked. He's outstanding football player. You're going to talk about the recruiting here in a second. Who they pulled him away from, I think, is a story unto itself. Getting him away from his coach, which I know you'll get into. He's a day one football player at Notre Dame, and they haven't had a lot of these corners over the years. The top 100, Mike. You got to go back to Gary Gray in 2007. That's the last time Notre Dame got a corner this nationally ranked, high ranked up. So they've had some top 100 safeties. They haven't had top 100 corners, and that's who Christian Gray is going to come in and be a guy on. I truly believe on day one when he gets here in 2023. His skill set, his speed, his length. There's some great 7-on-7 videos out there where you just see how long he is. He looks bigger than he's listed. Just watching him play, and he's an outstanding football player and one of the premier prospects in the country to go with. Probably the fastest guy on the roster who they just committed a couple days ago, Micah Bell. 2 outstanding corners coming into Notre Dame in 2023.
So the recruiting win, that's a huge story, right? There's been a lot of really impressive recruiting wins for Notre Dame lately. Landing Cam Williams, the 2024 4-star wide receiver who grew up a Michigan fan. Getting Preston Zinter, even his brother plays at Michigan. The list just goes on and on. Going into Austin, Texas, landing Braylon James. This one is probably the most impressive one, given what you just said. Notre Dame does not land many cornerbacks like this, but his high school coach, Robert Steeples, it was just for his freshman year, but those two were very close. And then Steeples ended up with the Minnesota Vikings for, I'm going to say, a couple years, and then hired on as LSU's cornerbacks coach earlier this year. You would think, again, those two are very close. That's like a father figure. You would just imagine LSU would land this kid. There was a lot of optimism on the LSU side of things that they would end up with him, and picks Notre Dame. He's just too strong of a Notre Dame fit for me that, LSU would have, I don't know, other than the Steeples thing, LSU wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense. In my opinion, it's arguably DBU, so that's true. But just the on-field, off-field fit is just perfect for him at Notre Dame. One other thing, when Steeples, so I covered Jordan Johnson's recruitment. It's the same high school that Notre Dame signed him out of, a 4-star receiver in the 2020 class. Of course, that didn't work out. Johnson's at UCF now. But I went to the high school, saw Johnson play. Gray was a freshman. I don't think he was really playing. And I built a good relationship with Steeples. And I remember Steeples telling me, hey, Mike, this was like a couple weeks before he left to Smet. He's like, hey, Mike, I got a kid. His name's Christian Gray. He's going to be really good. This was months before Notre Dame offered him, months before the kid had big time offers. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's what it. If I had $1 for every time a high school coach told me that, I'd be rich. The dude was right. Steeples believed in Gray from the get-go. And it's just so impressive that Notre Dame beat out LSU here. So, any thoughts on that, Tim?
No, that's it's an amazing story because there's a guy that that's known him since he was a kid, and he goes to LSU, DBs all over the NFL. Obviously Coach Kelly's down there, first year down there as well, be a part of that recruiting class. And he went down there, as a handful of times. So it's not like coach is there. He went down there and checked it out unofficially, officially. But there's one day I think you could talk about real quick, Mike, where he randomly went to Notre Dame during spring football for a day trip, like out of the blue.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sure that what happened was it re-solidified his Notre Dame feeling, like you're saying, he's a fit. This is where he should be. And it feels like that kind of stuck with him. I remember reading about that report on Blue and Gold that you did when he went to one of the practices. And I think that is awesome. He's a heck of a football player. And on top of that, you got 4 perimeter players now ranked in the top 200. When you're going, Christian Gray, Micah Bell, you go Braylon James, and you're going Rico Flores. 4. It only happened one time under Brian Kelly in 2018, and then Weiss did it 2 different times on the perimeter out there. And so it's a great group when you get them all together, of just the athleticism that they're bringing to play on the outside down the road there at Notre Dame.
All right, so you're talking about perimeter corners and receivers. Let's just look at this defensive backfield real quick that Notre Dame has committed on paper. Got Christian Gray, again, number 78 overall player, number 7 cornerback. Adon Schuler, number 226 player nationally, number 19 cornerback. I'm struggling here, guys. Safety, I think he's a little undervalued, but different discussion for a different day. Micah Bell, number 118 player nationally, number 11 cornerback. Peyton Bowen, number 55 overall player, number 6 safety. So let's go through that again. 78 national, 226 national, 118 national, and 55. I mean, this is on paper, this is the best Notre Dame secondary in a long time, right?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I went back over the last 20 years just looking at DBs, and like I said, the 2018 class that had 2 wide receivers, two DBs, but in the top 200, and then a couple times in the Weiss. But you're looking at basically a whole secondary coming in nationally ranked, and like you said, Don Schuler. You watch his film, he's going to have a dynamic senior film. His sophomore film is outstanding. His junior film is lights out. Why do you think Alabama and the entire SEC came knocking on his door in the offseason once they saw his junior film? So you're going to get 4 guys when it's all said and done ranked in the top 200, couple top 100 guys. Bowen, who committed, what was that? The Fiesta Bowl, right? January 1st. So he's been not, I don't want to say out of sight, out of mind, because he's been recruiting. He's been in the news so much, but he is outstanding safety. Him and Christian Gray, ball skills are top notch. Schuler's going to knock the living heck out of you. And there's not a faster player than Micah Bell on the football team. At least his speed is freakish. So 4 good football players, special teams guys. You got all these guys also have playmaking ability with the ball in their hand. Christian Gray on special teams here as well. Outstanding return work. So Coach Freeman and his staff are getting 4 athletes, and they're going to find some good spots for these guys.
And then Notre Dame obviously would love to add this guy, Caleb Downs. A pretty tight battle between Georgia and Ohio State. Sources that I've talked to actually think Ohio State leads. 5-star safety. See the On3 consensus, and On3 are pretty close. I can say on their opinions of them. So yeah, this would be quite the cherry on top. But I don't know. It's probably a long shot though.
You just keep pushing that last Georgia guy who came here and played safety, went in the first round.
They're
keep
close,
pushing
they're
that. Exactly. You just keep pushing that Notre Dame degree, all the positives that come from there. Come join a class that's going to, if Caleb Downs comes, then Notre Dame legitimately will have a battle for a top 3 without a doubt with his ranking if it happened. And I think he's the best non-quarterback. Quarterbacks are dominating the 2023 discussion. When you look at all the other football players, I think he's I think he's the best football player. I really do. I love this kid. I think his film's outstanding. There's some offensive linemen ranked ahead of him. I'll take Caleb Downs in 2 seconds.
Keon Keeley?
Over those guys in a heartbeat.
What about Keeley?
Yeah. Oh, Keeley. I mean, Keeley's an edge freakish. Man, something about, I don't know. When I watch Downs, I just think of just so many NFL safeties and the way he just could dominate a football game and the athleticism he brings. Keeley's a stud. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, it's just something about Downs. I watch him. I just always think of Earl Thomas and some of the great safeties that have just been ball hawks. And I think he would be a game changer at safety. Wherever he goes, he's a heck of a football player.
All right. So great news here for the Fighting Irish landing a commitment from 4-star cornerback Christian Gray. So Irish fans, make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video if you like what you saw. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not done so. And then that $1 for 1 year of premium access deal is still going on at blueandgold.com. So make sure you check that out as well. Appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next time.